Hello, and welcome to That's Just Human. It's a podcast that explores all aspects of being human, living in a body, and dealing with life's obstacles. We discuss people's stories, learn practical tools for growth and healing that help you to learn to step into your own authentic self and aliveness. I'm Elisha LightAngel. By day, I am a licensed massage therapist, and now I'm bringing you this podcast. Just like you, I too happen to live in a human body and have shared human experiences, and that has prompted me to start this podcast. So today, I would like you to welcome my good friend of several years, Grae Gonzalez. They have a story that doesn't happen to people, I don't think, frequently. Um, so
Hope not.
we're going to get to share they're going to get to share a really interesting story and how that has been for them in part of life and having a human experience that does happen, but a little bit more rarely than what we hear about. So say hello.
Hi. Hello. Hello, all of the light angels out there. That's your fan base name. I just decided.
Oh, thanks.
All of your little light angels.
I like that. I'll take it.
Hello, my name is Grae, and I am a singer-songwriter. I have been through some. Can we curse on here?
Go ahead. I'm not monetized. I don't care.
Hell yeah. I've been through some shit, and I'm about to tell you. We'll go get into all that today.
Fantastic.
Very excited to be here, Elisha. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Without revealing what happens, I kind of want it to be a surprise.
Oh, yeah.
So let's start with you. Happiness first. Of you get to take this awesome trip to Thailand. And how old were you?
So how old was I? I was 23. I was about to be 24. So I'm like young, hot in my prime. I'm like living my young independent life in Denton, Texas with like my cool roommates and like just like, just the social aspect of being in your, early mid 20s and just living it up. And so I was hot shit. I was going to Thailand. I was going to go work abroad in Thailand. And I was going to go and work for this woman who for lack of a better term, is a charlatan cunt.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Oh,
yes.
It's all part of the story. It's all part of the trauma. We're trauma dumping today because
go for it. I'm here to listen to this trauma dump.
Yes. So yeah, I worked for the charlatan cunt. I mean, but I didn't think that she was that before then, although I was 23 and inexperienced with life and had poor boundaries and allowed a lot of people in my life to step on my boundaries. And at that point, it was very easy to manipulate me for sure. So it's just a little context.
How did you hear about this supposed opportunity?
So I had worked for this woman twice before, and she ran a conference for nomadic home education. And I'm not going to say the name of her or the organization, but I will say that she is a charlatan cunt, and I will hold that with me for. I'm being dramatic. I am working on letting go of resentments, and that's a really big one that it's been really hard to justify letting go of because of just how much it broke me as a human being, But so I had met her at a different So I was running the kids conference for somebody who I do still very much hold in high regards to this day. I ran the kids portion of her conference in New Jersey that was just homeschooling conference, right? And that's where I met this woman who hired me. She had hired me to come to Mexico with them twice, and I had a great time. Fantastic time. It was amazing, which is why I thought I would be in safe hands going across the world with this woman who claims to be just like an expert traveler and just an expert on like the world and everything ever. And, just classic narcissist shit. And so like I get there and it's going great. And I had a really arduous journey there because it takes forever to get to Thailand. I don't know if you know that.
I don't. I have not been yet.
Well, let me tell you, if you go there, I don't want to ruin the story. But so I get there and I'm there for like 3 days. We're getting ready to start the conference and getting supplies, running around, blah, 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 blah. And we think stepping in a puddle of water and contracting what's called can you say necrotizing fasciitis, kids? In layman's terms, that's flesh-eating bacteria. And so we think I got it from stepping in a puddle of water. I had a blister on my foot, and like, when you're going to I was in Chiang Mai, right? And so when you're going to these really old ancient cities and just on the other side of the world, it's really hard to contain the shit particles sometimes. At least this is what people explained to me after the fact. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know shit. I don't know shit about fuck, and that's okay. So, it was like the night of there was like a meet the families night, and we were all going to go there. And when we had gotten there, I started rapidly declining. At first, my foot started hurting, but I didn't think anything of it. I'd been walking around a lot. We'd been, we went out and had fun and did some stuff and walked around and all that. And I was like, of course my feet are hurting, but then it just got worse and worse. And I was just feeling like, infection brain, where it's like you start getting cloudy and you can't think straight and nauseous. And then I started going down fast, and I was like, hey, I think I need to go back to the hotel. I'm not feeling well. And she was like, okay. And then she sent me back in like an Uber type thing. And I get back to the hotel and I'm just like, can't keep my eyes open. And then I fall asleep. And when I wake up, my leg is on fire. I couldn't put it down because the blood flow, it just felt like sticking my leg in a pile of fire ants on steroids.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. Oh man, it was excruciating. But something we learned about necrotizing fasciitis is that it doesn't appear. You can't really see it. Really, sometimes it's just like you can feel the pain. You can feel, the nausea and fatigue, the cloudiness. It was awful. Anyway, this woman, I don't know, she didn't believe me or whatever, because the next day was the first day of the conference, right? And that was the only thing that was important to her, right? First day of the conference. And so when I woke up still in agonizing pain, because I don't know what's wrong with me, I don't know what's going on with my leg, I don't know what I need to do. I'm stuck in this foreign country. 23 years old. And on top of it, I'm like, obviously I'm suffering from an active infection, and not just any infection. Flesh-eating bacteria is in my body. But we don't know any of that at this point. And she does, the classic little narcissistic dance where she's like making me feel bad for not being able to go to the conference. And she kept looking at my foot saying, it looks fine. And so I think that she thought I was lying to get out of it or something. I remember she came back that first day. All I could do is sit in bed with my foot propped up so that the blood wouldn't rushed to my feet, and I couldn't eat because I was feeling nauseous, and I couldn't really get out of bed unless I had to vomit, and then I would have to get up and put my foot on the ground and have that excruciating pain follow me all the way to the toilet just so I could throw up. And this woman, after she comes back, I asked her how the conference was, and she was like, "It was all right. All the volunteers did a really great job without you." So again, I'm 23 years old. I don't have good boundaries. I'm susceptible to the blame being put on me like all the time, just, just because of how the framework I was working with, right? And so I immediately internalized that and go, okay, obviously I have to fawn and people please and do what I can to help with the conference because fucking craziness, right? And so the next day in the morning, I was on FaceTime with my mom and she was with her friend, and we were trying to find hospitals to go to. This woman is getting ready in the hospital. Meanwhile, and she brags about how she runs these little retreats where she takes kids on trips all over the world and brags about how much she knows about it and brags about how much time she spent in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, and how well she knows it. And we were asking her where we could go to the hospital. And when I tell you that this woman couldn't give a fucking rat's ass about it, while my mom was on the phone with me, she was being dismissive and being like, "Oh, you can just search blah blah blah." She was getting ready for a conference. She was conference pilled. She was fucking conference brain. No time to think about anybody but herself. And I think she had got it in her mind that I was overreacting. And so I found a hospital. I was able to figure out how to ask them downstairs if I could have a wheelchair sent up miraculously. They spoke enough English, I think, because I don't know if you know this about Thai, but it's an impossibly hard language to grasp. So there was no chance that I was going to be able to communicate with them in their mother tongue. But I went to the hospital, and again, because of the language barrier, I didn't really understand what these doctors were telling me. I don't know if they could understand what I was telling them. They sent me back with oral antibiotics, and I was taking them and still feeling like shit, but taking the antibiotics, falling asleep, vomiting, all the whole shebang, right? And the same thing happened the night before that night. Then she comes back, she's dismissive, is trying to guilt me for not showing up for her conference, which is the most important thing in the world. I don't know if you know this, but it's the most important thing in the world.
Noted.
Yeah, my foot's on fire. I want to get an axe and chop it off, but your conference is actually more important. Forgive me. Yeah, like she brought me food and stuff, which she, of course, then later like held against me when I had told what I, a little uncouth of me, I did blast her all over Facebook for it afterwards. And I'm not a proponent of that, but it did feel really good. And it felt really good to embarrass her in front of people because of just how little regard she had for me and my health and my safety. I'm like, I have mixed feelings about my actions, but I don't regret it. But anyway, so that happens. And then the next morning, I'm feeling a lot better. And I'm like, oh, the antibiotics are working. My foot still hurts. I don't know what's going on. And, the guilt is setting in. And I'm going, well, this is how we survive in this life, is just doing what everybody else tells us to fucking do, right? So I get up and I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. I can just brave through it and go, and it's not a big deal and blah, blah, blah. So I get up and I'm like, I need crutches. So I took another Uber to a hospital and I purchased some crutches and decided, all right, I'm going to show up to the kids' camp today. Because I don't know why. I do know why. And it's because I was in an active infection situation where I literally couldn't think straight or make those decisions and needed someone to advocate for me, but I was alone in Thailand. And even worse than being alone is being saddled with a narcissist in your hotel room, right? So I get on the crutches and I decide I'm gonna walk there. What? I'm gonna fucking what? I'm gonna walk there. So yeah, I walked to. So we had the kids camp portion in this like weird like mall thing. It's very strange, but I liked it. I was into it. It was like a little place that had like an arcade, but it was also like kind of like a community area as well. There was like a little outside you could go and all this. And we had stuff planned. I had stuff planned, and I get there and they're all still outside. I'm on my crutches. And I'm like, hey, this is the first time I met any of these people, too, by the way. First time I met any of them because I wasn't here on the first day. I wasn't here on the second day. Finally, it was Wednesday, right? And so the first day that it happened was on a Monday. And that was like that night of like the family, like, you know, meet and greet kind of thing before the conference started. That was Monday. So the other stuff happened on Tuesday and then now Wednesday, right? So I'm there at the kids' camp and I'm trying to hang in there. I start sweating and, you know, the nausea starts coming back to me, but I think I just need some water. And so I sent one of the volunteers down to get water. He was very sweet. He brought it to me. He was like, obvious. I think everybody knew that I was very unwell. And so he gets me the water and I'm just like, oh man, I'm down for the count, but I'm rejecting this idea because I want it to not happen. And it turns out that you have to kind of like live life on life's terms sometimes. You don't just get to have things exactly the way you want them. So while I was sitting there chatting with a kid and their parent, trying to keep my shit together so that Blaney doesn't get mad at me because that's important to me in my 23-year-old fucked up head, right? And so I'm sitting there and I go, oh my God, it's coming. So I bolt up off of where I was sitting and the bathroom is like behind this, like in the back of this like little like kind of dinky arcade. Well, it wasn't dinky, it was fine, but it was in the back of that. So I had to traverse all these like bright lighted games and pinball machines and fun and fancy free to get to the bathroom to vomit. But I didn't make it, Elisha. I did not make it. And I projectile vomited all over the floor of the arcade. And everybody fucking saw it. Everybody saw me just projectile vomit. And I was so fucking humiliated. I got it on my Ariel shirt. My Ariel shirt. And it was so fucking humiliating. And then they sent me back to walk alone back to my hotel room covered in vomit with no one to like even like, you know, no one escorted me. Nobody like made sure it was okay afterwards. It was real bleak. It was dark. And so I get there. I'm currently in the process of being traumatized in all sorts of different ways at this point, right? After that night, I was like, all right, I'm going home. I need to go home. So I stepped out in the hallway that night on my crutches with my leg burning in fucking pain. And my family's freaking out at this point because I'm diabetic. And they're like, oh, something's wrong with the diabetic kid and their foot's on fire and we're on the other side of the world right now. So I called them and they're like, yeah, immediately, like, yeah, of course, of course. And so the next day I was gonna fly back. And then just to harp back on this woman's behavior, I very silently opened the hotel room door to get back into bed, and it just woke her up. And that was not okay, apparently, because she was just like, ugh. It's so fucking loud. What is that. And then like turned over because like I was being like a little bit loud because I just had to step out to make a phone call to my parents saying I need to go home because I'm sick.
I'm curious, after
Yeah.
you vomited, did
Yeah.
she actually believe you that something was wrong?
I don't know, and I don't care. This woman's fucking nuts. Obviously, if she still had it in her head that I was lying, that's on her. I think even if she did believe me, she justified it in her narcissistic brain that she was justified in treating me that way because of whatever fucking reason, and that's hers. That's hers to deal with, and I yeah, I I don't really care honestly if she believed me or not because it doesn't matter if she believed me because she's not really the arbiter of truth. It turns out she doesn't have quite the grasp on like the reality of like situations and like how to act like a proper like caring adult in society. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I don't really know. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Of course, after the fact, when I called her out on Facebook, she definitely was like, I was a caretaker for my husband with cancer and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bitch, well, it didn't show. So yeah, that morning I was like, the first thing I did when I woke up was like, hey, I'm going home. And she went, I shit you not, this woman went, your flight is non-refundable. In that moment, I didn't have the rage because I was in the middle of being traumatized. But like, if current me were in that situation, woo. Well, if current me were in that situation, I would have been out of there a long ass time ago, right? But
So you're just gonna stay there then until the
right, so what?
planned
I die in
departure?
your hotel room, then you can be like, "Oh no, it was such a tragic loss." Like, I don't know. Yeah, right. No. Well, she also, I'm sure she knew that how bad this was going to make her look when I left too. It probably really was setting in with her. But yeah, just the like, if your response is, "Ugh, your plane ticket is non-refundable." I just don't understand that shit. I don't understand how you could respond to another human being in severe pain that way. I worked for her 2 times before. She knows my commitment to this. She knows that I wouldn't sign up for this and just fuck off, you know? So it's like, yeah, I can't wrap myself around her being how she is and responding how she responds to the world around her because it is crazy and it doesn't make sense. So why would I drive myself crazy, I guess? You know, kind of my logic on it. But so then that morning, and then after she said, I just like looked at her and didn't say a fucking word to her at all. And she left me to pack my shit and get out of there because I was like, I finally had enough fucking clarity in me to be like, all right, let's go, right? Oh, you want to know a fun little fact?
Yeah, tell me.
So this was Thursday morning, of course, and that was the morning of my 24th birthday. So I spent the morning of my 24th birthday in excruciating pain, in and out of sleep, vomiting, and trying to pack all of my shit together and then leave and go to the airport and lug all of my shit that I brought with me like a fucking pack mule on my. But I got there, and I got there to the Chiang Mai airport, and it was miserable. And then I flew to Bangkok, and then I had like a 6 hour layover, and I grabbed all, and I was just like feeling like shit. I was like, I could barely keep my eyes open. And so I like grabbed all my shit, and I like got under these chairs. There's like those like, you know how like they'll have like at a bus stop or something, they'll have like those like lines of chairs where it's like they're like plastic, and there's like,
Yeah.
so it was like one of those, and there was like a clear space like in between under. So I just like grabbed all of my shit and I like stuffed it under there and like piled it on top of me and under me like a bed and blanket combination. And I slept for like 6 hours on the floor at the Bangkok airport. And then,
Wow.
yeah. And that first flight was really, really awful. But I was able to sit in my chair the whole time. And then I was flying. My flight destinations were going to be from Chiang Mai to Bangkok, and then I was going to go Bangkok to Hong Kong. I was going to Bangkok to Hong Kong, then Hong Kong home. So then I got on the plane from Bangkok to Hong Kong. When I got to Hong Kong, they because I spent the entire time in the bathroom vomiting. Like I told them, I was like, it's an emergency. I need to be in here and vomit. Sorry, bye. And then they let me because I was like, you want me to vomit out there? Or you want me to vomit in the toilet? Your pick, right? So yeah, we landed and they immediately like called me and like a couple other like kind of elderly passengers to the side. I didn't know what was happening. I was in Hong Kong. I don't know what's going on. I was called and selected. Obviously they could see me and were like, "You're not okay." They had me sit there, and then they brought me to the airport doctor that they have there, and he took like one look at my foot and was like, "You are not flying. You have to go to the hospital." So I ended up staying at a hospital in Hong Kong for 9 days. And it saved my foot and probably my life, honestly, because I don't know what would have happened. Because even at that point, I didn't know that I had flesh eating bacteria until I got back to Dallas. And so this whole time, I'm just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what. I just want to go home. I want to go home, right? So, but the hospital was full of adventure and stories.
So you're freshly 24 years old in a
On my birthday.
country,
This is on my birthday when I get admitted to a hospital in Hong Kong.
in a country across the world with not one person, not one, that you could like have a shoulder to rely on to guide you. Oh my God, that had to be so scary.
And don't forget that there's a 12-hour time difference. So in order to call my family during the day, I would have to call them in the middle of the night there. Not just like my friends too. And I was at that point in my life where like a lot of my friends were very fair weather friends. They were a lot of bar friends and a lot of like true friends. And so I did have like the true friends, but I can't, there's only so much you can do contact wise from across the world, right? And the really cool, interesting thing about the hospital is in Hong Kong, and I think this is customary in lots of other parts of Asia too, but the hospitals don't provide you with like anything, no toiletries, nothing. Your family, you're supposed to have family that brings you these things. Your family and friends bring you all these things. And between the short visiting hours, there were 3 whole hours in the day. There was an afternoon visiting hour from like 1 to 2, and then the other 2 visiting hours were from 5 to 7. And that was it. And
Wow.
I tell you what, it was, I think this is my favorite story to tell from the hospital in Hong Kong. But of course, on top of all of this, I start my period, right? And remember how I mentioned earlier that they don't have anything for people there because it's brought in from the outside. And so I started my period and I was just like, I was basically, because what sucks with Hong Kong is how the older generations do speak English because of the British, right? But the younger generations only speak Cantonese mostly now. So their English it was harder to communicate with them. But I was kind of like asking because I knew that they didn't have pads and stuff, but I was like trying to be like, hey, do you personally have a tampon or a pad that I could use? And at this point, I've been through all of that shit in Thailand, all that shit all the way up to this point. I am fed up and done. And I get up to ask, and there's blood dripping down my pants, and they're like, "Oh my God, minstrel, minstrel!" They keep saying minstrel, minstrel to me about, "Oh, you have blood going down your pants." That's not because they're a very polite society that they don't. I don't know if you know. Even nurses there were very shocked at my display of dripping blood down my pants, and and I was like, "Yeah, well, here's the thing: you guys don't have a tampon or a pad for me to use, so." And then this was like a little like straw that broke the camel's back. A nurse brought me like a pair of adult diapers to wear,
Oh.
and I looked at her like this, and I grabbed them from her hands, and I turned. Oh, fun fact, right? So I'm in this wing with like 8 other old ladies. Not that I'm an old lady, but eight other ladies who were like all much older than I am. And the bathroom, I had to get on a walker and walk all the way over down the hall to the one bathroom where only one of the stalls was in working order. So I'm on a walker when I'm out here talking to these ladies. And then she offers me the Depends, and I give her the look, and I grab the Depends, and I turn dramatically towards the bathroom that was being kept open by the trash can, and I fucking slam dunked that shit into the trash can and walked back to my bed and free bled because I said, you know what? I have no problem sitting in my own blood, but they're going to have to change my bedding. I feel like an entitled American about it, but what?
I'll tell you what, you haven't given birth, but when this is for any woman-bodied person that might choose to birth a human out of their vagina, you will bleed for 6 weeks afterwards, and they actually recommend wearing Depends because it's not like a regular period. It is beyond a regular period. And like I want to say that I wore them for the first 2 weeks after I gave birth. There was just so much. There was just so much blood. That's
Yeah. And listen, I am not knocking that, but you have to understand that I was 23. I have never given birth, and I will never give birth. I was not born into a body where that is like a good thing, for me. And so I was just like so fucking done with like everything that I'd already been through that at that point I was like, because like if I was in like a regular place and somebody offered me that and that was like a last resort, sure. But I was like, I am so fucking done with everything here, and I'm just choosing to have an emotional reaction to it. And I again, would I do that if I was not in the position that I was in? Yeah. But I was in that position and I was like, I'm taking a little control back because I feel like shit. And this is happening to me right now in my life. And I'm going to free bleed in my bed because I don't give a fuck right now. I don't give a single flying fuck about and call me a shock porn addict, but I love shocking the world, And so it's like you deal with a little period blood. That's okay, girly pop. Like
so in this hospital, you're there for 9 days. So
Mhm.
what is the treatment that they're giving you?
So it's very strange in that in hospitals over there, doctors are still very much revered as like the king of the hospital. It is still very, very, from my experience being at the hospital that I was at, it was, very gender separated. The doctors were males, the nurses were women. And and the doctors don't have to be as transparent with you as a patient as they do in the United States, like with what treatment is going on, with what care they're giving. Like he would kind of dodge questions if he just felt like it was kind of like, I'm taking care of you. I know what to do. You don't need to worry about that. And we don't have to tell you, so I'm not going to, right? And so I was kind of like not sure what the fuck is going on. They did a debridement on me. And then there was like the whole battle of trying to get me back home, which was really a really fucking bureaucratic nightmare of a of a task, because the hospital is like, we can't let you go unless somebody can be like somebody can like escort you back, basically, or like be in charge of you, be in charge of your health while you're flying home. And because they don't give information out to other hospitals, the other hospital could not call them and ask them what my condition was. And so we were having to give it to them through third party. Thankfully, I had travel insurance. I had like I was still on my parents' insurance, which was really good. And they had like a whole, anyway, I was like really fortunate in that there was a bunch of like services and people that my parents were busting their ass trying to get in contact with. They got in contact with a really, really sweet woman named Alice, who was the friend of somebody's cousin who my dad sang with at the Dallas Symphony Chorus. My parents are just, they're like, we're using our lifelines. We're using our lifelines. So she came and she brought me a charger and she gave me her number if I needed anything. So that was nice to have. But I also didn't know her. And I am experiencing culture shock in a way that I don't think a lot of people do. Because I didn't even go to Hong Kong. I went to a hospital in Hong Kong.
So did the hospital give you food?
Oh, yeah, actually. You know what was crazy? Okay, so they gave me basically to eat every day. We got steamed rice and veggies, which was great, which is better than any food I could get at Baylor. I just ate steamed rice and veggies like for all of, and but they would also give you like this meat dish that was just unholy. And I never ate it because I tried it and I was like, I can't. And so I just ate veggies and steamed rice for my entire stay there. I was like, hell yeah, I got real good at chopsticks, let me tell you. Real good at chopsticks. But yeah, no, that was a really isolating part. And then, so eventually my dad was like, I'll be the sponsor. I'll go and sponsor my kid, right? And so the insurance company was like, okay, yeah, that works. So he flew to Hong Kong to rescue me. And it's one of those stories that I am going to tell at his funeral, about just like what kind of, dad he was, and, just to illustrate it really, like he flew to, not only that, but he flew to Hong Kong, and it was just like seeing my dad finally was like just like the best moment, because it was like I was alone and scared for like weeks at this point, at least like 2, because I was there for 9 days and he came on like the 7th. And at that point, okay, so like a week and a half, maybe, if we're going to be semantic. But he gets there and my dad is very much a rule breaker, and he's very charismatic. He's good at talking to people. He's good at getting out of situations. He's good at not giving a fuck about getting in trouble for anything. And I admire that about him. And one night he convinced the nurse, he was like, can I take them down to the cafeteria to get some food? And they're like, okay, but you have to stay in the hospital. The rules. And so we get to the cafeteria and we order the food. And then I was like, oh, this is the same shit that they feed us and it's inedible, because I tasted it and it was like cornstarch chicken sauce. And we were like, this is the worst food we've ever had, ever. And so he was like, do you want to go out of the hospital and get some food? And I was like, I don't think they're going to allow that. And he was like, so? And I was like, okay. And he was like, where do you want to go? And I was like, McDonald's. And so this motherfucker gets a taxi. He steals a wheelchair from the hospital. I get in the car in my hospital pajamas. I've got my foot wrapped. we're sitting in there. He kidnapped me essentially, right? And we go to McDonald's and it's the best. And then we come back and the hospital was like, we almost called the police. We almost, and my dad was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. But like bullshit. And so then finally, it was that whole, again, bureaucratic nightmare. And my dad, the charismatic guy that he is, like, and like just, problem solver and all of these things, he talked to the hospital at in Hong Kong, and he was like, all right, so what do we need to do to get them home? And they were like, we need you to book a ticket. You need to see that there's a ticket booked and that there's a hospital that they're going to be going to. And he was like, okay, great. And so then he called the insurance, and he asked them, he was like, okay, so what do you need on your end for them to come home? And they were like, we need the hospital to release them, right? But they weren't going to release me until all these things have been met, right? So this here lies the problem, right? And so my dad goes, okay, hangs up the phone. And then he goes back to the head nurse and he's like, hey, we got the hospital's waiting, and we got tickets, they're booked, we're ready to go. So they discharged me that day without questioning this man, because they wanted that loud American who's just like spends all night sobbing and all day yelling at nurses and free bleeding in their bed and being loud and obnoxious to leave, probably. Just guessing. And they're like, great. So then he calls the insurance back, and they're like, hey, they just discharged them. And they're like, awesome. So now we can book the ticket. And so he booked the plane. He had no idea that none of this. He just orchestrated all of this, like, sneaky little guy. It's and so then we went back home, and I flew home business class, which I don't think I'll ever be able to do again because that's expensive. But yeah, we flew back, and because once that happened, we got the tickets. They were like, all right, they can go to Baylor. We're going to Baylor. We got the tickets. We're on the way home. We go back, and a limo gets to pick us up from the airport to take us to the hospital, which was kind of fancy and fun, right? And at this point, I still didn't know what was wrong with me, but I knew something was very wrong, right? So I'm just like kind of like nervously waiting to go to the hospital. And so then we got to Baylor, and they checked me in, and every nurse was like horrified, but tried really hard to like smile and act and like not act like there was a problem. And
Well,
then
that's very sweet of them.
That's very sweet. My toe was black.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, like it was bad, because part of the reason why they couldn't send me home initially is because when the doctor looked at it, he knew that he couldn't send me home initially. Like the doctor at the airport was like, you can't go on a flight, is because the pressure would have probably killed me with all the shit that was going on.
Oh.
It would have, like, I guess somebody explained that to me. I could be wrong. I don't fucking.
But you already made it on a flight, like 2 flights to get
Well,
there.
but they were really short. This was a 12-hour flight from Hong Kong
Okay.
to Dallas. So yeah, that would have been 12 hours in the air with no medical person even on board, right? So yeah, I'm glad that he stopped me. I'm glad that I had to stay in the hospital because that saved my foot and probably my life, right? Being able to have at least like a debridement. And then I got to Baylor, and then yeah, the nurses, and then my family's horror when they walked in, my mom and my brothers, and they were just, again, trying to stay calm for my sake. But yeah, I was like, oh no, it's much worse than I can really even see from up here because it was like black on the bottom, not quite up top, and I wasn't really even, I was going through a lot. What's to say? It's going through a lot. But so they admitted me to the hospital, obviously, and I was in Baylor for like 3 weeks because yeah, I got there and they didn't even tell me until they had me sign a waiver for surgery. But yeah, they're like, we're gonna have to amputate your pinky toe and part of your metatarsal, a fifth wave amputation. And I learned that because I read it on the document I was supposed to sign to allow them to remove it. And nobody came and explained that to me before. And so I had a nice little cry morning session with my mom about my little piggy. And
Oh,
yeah, but I was like, well, that's just what's happening, I guess. But I was more like, I actually was I was just in trauma brain, honestly, the whole time because
wow.
this is quite a bit, right?
I can imagine you. I mean, you spent, this is already what, at least a couple of weeks because you got to Thailand. You were in Thailand for a little while when this starts happening. It escalates. Then you get to the point where you're in the Hong Kong hospital for 9 days. And then finally back in America after a 12-hour flight. I can't even imagine that you would be sleeping that well, being in this sort of state, in addition to the culture shock and all of the different things that would be going through your mind and affecting your emotional state.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, sleeping has never been a problem for me. I'm a sleepy little guy, but especially when you're like are sick, it's a lot easier to sleep than you think. Do you get good rest? No. But did I get good rest? Absolutely not. Because again, I'm in a foreign land. But I certainly did get some shut eye. Just it was more my body being like, all right, we need to dissociate very hard from reality right now.
So
But
you're a healer.
so I left. Yeah, I had left Dallas on like October 17th. I got there 18th, 19th ish to Thailand. And then I didn't come home until maybe like November 20th or something.
That's including your stay in
Yeah,
the hospital
yeah.
in
That's like me
Dallas.
going to
Okay.
Thailand and then me coming all the way back home to my house. And then I had to move. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing is that it was like all this trauma and then like my whole life had to like take a whole like step back and I had to move from my house from where I was living in Denton back with my parents, where I still live today. And I've come to love it, multi-generational households. Let's give it up for them, right? There was that, and then like 7 years of recovering physically and mentally.
So you didn't know exactly what they were doing, but you signed the form, and so you go into surgery not quite knowing, just knowing something's
No,
going
no,
to
no.
happen.
I knew it once we signed the form. We read fifth wave amputation, right? So we're like, oh, okay. And then we got a nurse and we're like, is this like, what is this? And she's like, oh my God, nobody came and talked to you about what we were going to do. And we're like, yeah, no, nobody actually came and like talked to us. Isn't that very silly? A little oopsie poopsie, huh? Like, like that's so silly of you guys. Yeah, no, I knew going in. Once I started like going into surgery, I knew what was happening.
Okay. And then after surgery, how long did you have to stay in the hospital to, I guess, recover from the surgery before they would let you go home?
Almost 3 weeks, yeah, because
Wow.
it happened almost immediately because it had to go.
Wow.
You had to go wee all the way to the incinerator. I had to go to the hyperbaric chamber every day. It's very interesting healing method. So what they do is you go into it's called a tank. It basically is like a submarine and it takes you down in pressure, takes you down. It doesn't actually physically do that, but it recreates that feeling. But you put these like almost like space helmet things on, and you're breathing 100% oxygen in. So that the pressure combined with the oxygen you're breathing in stimulates it helps your body heal faster. And I
Interesting.
needed it because like they took like right. So imagine this is a foot, right? Very comparable. So they took this part, they took my pinky toe, and then this would technically be like my metatarsal. So like all of that whole section, my foot's gone.
Wow. So
And
what
if
has
you
it
want to
been
see it,
like?
folks, you gotta pay for it.
So what was it like having to adjust to walking again and trying to get back to some form of a normal life?
Oh, yeah. So I remember those last 7 years I was talking about? It's ups and downs and full of that. And a lot of it is having to accept that my life is different, that I was a different person, that I was no longer the person that I was before October 17th of 2018, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the healing had to do with accepting that I am disabled, accepting that I had a lot of pride in the fact that I may have been a fat bitch, but I could beat you up a flight of stairs. Yeah. And I was really strong and I could carry a lot of shit. And so I could challenge people's biases on fat people. But now I'm just a regular fat guy who runs out of air walking up the stairs. And it's just not fair anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. So I did a lot of healing on that. I had to do a lot. I'm like, I don't give a shit anymore, right? I lost my little brother. He died by suicide in March of 2024. And I had two spiritual deaths before I had a rebirth.
Mm.
And right now I am feeling on top of the fucking world about my life, about where it's going, about all this shit, carrying my grief lighter. But it really, I did start. I just tried. I was on that journey of healing already before he died because of my foot stuff. I was on that journey of healing that grief, of healing that loss of my expectations for what I thought my life was going to be, the expectations of myself, right? Having to step away from my old self because that version of me no longer exists without that part of my foot, right? So
Yeah.
she's dead. I also came to the conclusion that I am a gender non-conforming, non-binary person. So like, yeah, she dead. They stepped in. I was a dead walking corpse because I didn't know what to do with all this trauma, and it took me years to even seek out therapy. There's a whole story there because it's like a lot of it was just me not wanting to accept that I was in the place that I was. And so it was a lot of resistance, a lot of this isn't fair, a lot of pity parties, and it kept me very stagnant for so long. And then my little brother died. He didn't just die, he didn't die in a car wreck. He fucking killed himself, right? And so that is a whole extra, like, no offense to all of the listeners out there. If somebody you know has a loved one who dies of suicide, do not say that you understand if you don't truly understand. Do not say, I understand because my dad died. I understand because my grandma died. Because you don't understand actually if you have not gone, if you are not a survivor of suicide, which is what we're called, actually. A little suicide awareness for everyone. Yeah, don't say that shit because it is not just a very sad death. It would be sad if he died of any other thing, but it was a really, really traumatic death. So it's like the grief on top of the trauma of that is something that like you just don't understand. So as well intentioned as that is to be like, I understand what you're going through. I understand grief, or a lot of these things that are kind of in the social script, just like toss them out the window and say, my heart is with you right now through what you're going through, with what you're going through. And there are no words. Sometimes there are no words, and that feels so much better than an empty gesture of social scripts. That's my little suicide PSA for everyone.
I think that's good. And I mean, even grief and trauma, both of those look different for everybody. So to say, I understand, even if you went through the same thing and you were another sibling, you still don't understand what that person's going through because you process differently, you perceive everything differently, and we just have to be empathetic and compassionate
Yes.
to other people wherever they are in their journey. And the understanding comes in recognizing that some of their behaviors, which might come across as odd to whoever's not going through it, is just a part of the way that person is dealing with grief or responding to trauma and trying to keep themselves safe and keep their heads above water while they're still living.
Absolutely, nail on the fucking head. Absolutely. 100%. It's so weird and isolating in a way because people don't like and or know how to be uncomfortable. And it's a really uncomfortable thing to have to stand there and listen to somebody say, yeah, my brother killed himself. He died by suicide. That leaves people going, what do I do? How do I respond? What do I do? What do I do? Because they don't know how. It's not in the social script. It's not, nobody's walking around talking about it because people just don't talk about suicide because of all sorts of fucking reasons, right? It's just it's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's okay to hear something uncomfortable and be able to stand with it, because as uncomfortable as you are, I was really uncomfortable when we found my brother's dead body hanging in his closet. Right. So it's like, put your discomfort into perspective. Discomfort is not harm. As catastrophic for our family and for us as individuals as his suicide has been, it forced me out of stagnation. It forced me out of major stagnation. It forced me to put my energy into stuff like self-care and finally take care of myself the way that I deserve to be taken care of, not focusing on the things that aren't fair. Because you know what? The other major thing that I learned from that is that there's like two things that we can control, and that's ourselves and our response to the world around us. And so it is very unhelpful, and it keeps you in this place of stagnation if you're just focused on all of the things that aren't fair, that you can't control, And so I realized that I was putting so much energy into that, especially when it came to my foot stuff, because it wasn't fair that I had to go through all of that on my birthday of all days. Start that whole hospital thing on my birthday and lose my foot and my independence and my hot ears, and I was really resentful towards just life and nothing, and having to be on bed rest all the time. It was so isolating, and people didn't want to come visit me because they didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to hang out. There's only so much other people can do for you too, and I allowed my desire, my wants for what I wanted to do, I allowed that to control me, and I would go out when I really shouldn't have been, when it was better for me to stay home, because I was like, no, I can do this because I want to, which is like a mindset that worked for me in an able body. Like, I could push myself a lot more in that body, but I can't do that anymore because I am not that person anymore. I am a different person with a different set of abilities. And I just didn't want to accept that because I was having so much fun living on my own. And I was a late bloomer. I moved to Denton in 2017 when I was 22, right? So I spent basically a year in Denton living on my own. Oh, I had moved from my parents' house where I currently live again at 22 as kind of a late bloomer, I would say, or I felt that way at least. And I was out there being independent. I had a job. I had all this stuff for the first time, and I felt so independent and so like I was finally growing up, and I was finally an adult because I didn't feel like an adult when I was living here. And I needed to go out and spread my wings, but I didn't realize that they would be clipped so soon after. I got that little taste of what that's like, and I really appreciate and enjoy it now to look back on that, on my formative years of being in Denton. It turns out that that's places like, it can be like Never Never Land for some people, and that's where stagnation can live for a lot of, at least the people that I was surrounded with. And so I've just, and I've seen the Denton stagnation happen quite a bit. And I understand why, because it's like, if you're middle-aged and you're still going out to bars in a college town and partying, it feels like probably there's a little arrested development there.
True. Yeah.
I'm like, if you're still doing stuff that you were doing in college and you're 40, it's like, not that there's anything wrong with going to bars and being 40, but like just the life. I'm not talking about that specifically. I want to be very clear, because there's nothing wrong with that. And I said that in a very reductionist way. And I want to be clear that there's nothing wrong with that. But there's very clear stagnation in those groups that I was in. And I'm grateful now for it pushing me away from becoming that stagnant kind of person. And it would have made me miserable, right?
So, as you mentioned at the beginning, you are a singer-songwriter. And for the listeners out there, they will often throw little songs up on social media or even doing cosplay. They're really good at that too. And so I was wondering if you wrote any songs during this time period that has helped you to get through. A lot of their songs are, I guess, parodies or they're quirky little.
Yeah. Actually, I think the only parody I've really written to this day is probably the one that I just posted on like social media, the phony kings of our land. But I do have a song about my foot stuff that I wrote after I had an acid trip where I was like, I don't want. I told my friend, I was like, I don't want to, because I was looking down at my legs, and I was in my hands, and I could see them turning gray, and like it was not fun, right? I would call it a not fun acid trip, right? And looking down at my feet and feeling, and I also stopped doing acid because of blood pressure issues. So that was the last time I did it because of that as well. Because I think it wasn't just the acid that was making me see that. I was really feeling some shit. I was like, Kiki, I don't want them to take my legs. I don't want to be Lieutenant Dan. And that sparked my little folk punk song that I wrote about just taking care of myself. I never wrote a song specifically about like my experiences in in Thailand and Hong Kong and all that, although that might be a brewing, because I'm on a roll, Elisha, with my creativity. I'm on a roll, and I got shit coming out. I have an EP that I need to fucking release on Bandcamp.
You have a Bandcamp that you put music out?
Not yet.
Oh.
But that is my plan. For now, I am on social media under Grae Gonzalez Music. On TikTok and Instagram mostly.
I'll also put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So people can easily go and click on it if they want to as well.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I did bring my ukulele in here because I thought there might be a chance that I could use it if you'd like to hear that song.
Yes, would you play us that song?
Absolutely. I look like a dollar store ornament, sleepy from my acid trip the night before, and now it's spent, and I don't feel too clever. My luck all ran right out the door the day that I turned 24, and I puked my guts out on the floor of that Thailand airport bathroom. My story, alright. My circulation is so poor, the nerves down in my toes are dead, and I will try my whole damn life to make sure that this body goes on living. If they had to take my legs, I wouldn't stand. It would be real shitty, man. I'd call myself Lieutenant Dan to mask my pain with humor. Depression and ADHD, crippling anxiety, executive functioning. Who's she? I simply couldn't tell ya. My head's a maze. I have to take a shower now, but I cannot trudge through this haze, and I must find a good way out to make sure that this body's really living. No booze, no sweets, no cigarettes, nothing that helps you reject the reality that has been said, even though it's fucking dog shit. I know Big Pharma really sucks. It's fun by the big victim tax. This prescription totally fucks, and I feel like a human. It's nice to see how free I feel. I bet my therapist is proud of me for making changes in my life to make sure that this body goes on living.
Yay, thank you. That was great.
Great.
For great is great. That's right. So we're coming to the close of the podcast, and I ask everybody this one question. If you could leave one bit of wisdom with our audience, what would that be?
What other people think of you is none of your motherfucking business. Do not let it control you. Unshackle yourself from that thinking, because their story is their story, and it doesn't matter if you're living authentically to who you are and you know it. It should be good enough for you, baby.
Heck yeah. Those are some wise words.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I'm so glad that I got to hear this whole story, and I hope that other people enjoy hearing it as much as I did, and just gain a new perspective from your lens. Yeah, I really look forward to getting to hear more songs once you get them out there on the internet.
Oh yeah, and they'll be out there. I'm starting it now. I'm putting more stuff out there. I'm doing it. I'm doing my shit, eating my veggies, getting it out there. So there is going to be more shit, and within the next few days, I'm going to start posting music more regularly on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll share it on Facebook for all my Facebook friends.
Yes, I love it.
All right, thank you so much, Elisha. I had a really great time talking with you on your podcast.
Yes, I had such a great time. Thank you. So if you're listening, please subscribe or write a review or share this with a friend if you think somebody needs to hear this. It helps get my podcast out there. And as you embrace your humanness, be kind, be you, and remember, everything is part of the journey.